The malls are dying and people need housing. Let's merge those two together. I'm Gene SV, and this is our built environment. We're going to take a look at a Bloomberg little news clip came out a couple days ago, and it's on malls. And then they have another one about senior housing, and I have some ideas on those. Let's check it out.
Is fenced off.
What's happened in Wyomissing is far from unique. Across the country, America's love affair with shopping malls has cooled. It was an affair driven by the passion of consumers.
True,
Passion to buy, and
especially
also
in
to buy alongside
California,
others sharing that
theoretically.
passion.
It's the
So it
emotional
depends on which
connection.
mall.
So let's not forget why people shop, why women primarily shop, right? So 85% of consumption generally occurs from the female side of things.
Ooh.
Adrian Yee is a retail analyst at Barclays and has
Yeah, I
followed
don't
the
have
business
time
for
to
nearly
shop.
20 years.
Back in the day, it was the social outlet. And that hasn't necessarily gone away. Unfortunately, we have all the social media where people don't socialize in a public space. The US consumption
And
is
this is
the
why-
most oversupplied in the world.
This is
So-
undeniably why, if you look at places that are nice and easy to walk around in, you're outside, you don't have to be in a mall, you don't have to go to a mall with the intent of, okay, I'm going to spend the entire day shopping, and you go out to just a local place. Well, it's just nicer to be able to walk around and then window shop and then just make it easy. You don't want to have to make an intent to spend your entire day at a mall. It's absurd.
Pre-pandemic, or I should say actually pre-GFC, so we had approximately 7 square feet of retail space per capita. Now you compare that to, in Europe, it's about $1 or 1 square foot to 1.5 square feet per capita. And then obviously in Asia, it's significantly lower than that.
The U.S. hasn't lost its passion to consume, and it still has a lot of retail space. But there's a
Gosh.
good deal less of that space than there
That
used to
mall
be.
that I think it is?
In the 1980s, there were approximately 2,500 malls in the country. Today, fewer than 1,000.
Whoa.
Raising the question of how far it could go, whether malls
That
could
is
simply disappear
wild.
altogether.
We don't think they're dying.
Crazy.
The better malls have a place in the market, and we think what's left, we don't think they're all going to die. However, there are some that will probably die in the future.
Igal Namdar's company owns some 80 of the malls that remain, and he says they can still be a good investment, provided they're the right malls.
When you look
Which
for
malls
investment,
are the right
what's the profile you
malls?
look for?
Indeed.
Look for a great location, a good market,
Location,
strong market,
sure,
a
yeah.
growing market.
Basic
We look at the
business.
mix of tenants in the mall,
Basic
occupancy,
economics.
who the anchors are, sales of tenants, the trend, and we hope we can, buy more as we go on.
We may be seeing a
Oh, man,
natural
that sounds like
correction
a lot
in the
of
number
hope.
of malls pulling back from their peak, but that correction has been turbocharged by the rise of e-commerce.
Yeah,
E-commerce
everybody knows
as a
this.
percent of sales from 2010 to about
Started-
2015 was just hugging 10%.
It started with the affordable products at Walmart and Kmart and stuff like that, Target, whatever. And then it moved online completely.
Hugging 10, 10. And then from 17 to 19, it went from 10 to 30.
So you think you know Wix?
Oh,
Do you
man.
really?
A commercial. That's because
First
I'm
up,
at
we've
YouTube
got Shake
Premium.
Video.
Subscribe now.
It was
So
that
we
S curve of
maybe,
adoption where all
canceled
of a
it.
sudden it was like, oh, why? Because this generation demanded it of Amazon and
This
all these other
generation
things. So now we're
demanded
in the
it.
era where this next
I
2
can't.
decades of consumption is everything that I pick that I want that's going to land at my doorstep when I snap my fingers or I blink my eyes, like Genie.
If it went to 30% in 2019, I think you said, right? What happened with the pandemic and where is it now?
In 1 year. So that 30%, which is kind of like specialty, more like specialty, like on mall retail. Less so in furniture and more so in apparel, but generally that number is 30%. It flipped. In 2020, it went to 70-30,
70% e-commerce,
E-commerce.
30% bricks and mortar.
because you can go to the stores. And then what happened, it was sort of
Yeah,
like kind of
people just got
ratcheted down
used to it
sort
or
of
something?
in 2021 and 2022. And so it's now kind of at a level playing field where it's kind of more like 40-45% e-commerce, and it's heading to 50-50.
Can you envision a world in which actually bricks and mortar start eating back into e-commerce?
I
My
can.
view is that a
'Cause
50-50
people like
world
it
is
more.
about right. Because a 50-50 world will be about 500 stores, so to, kind of in that range.
Which malls get hit the hardest by the retrenchment depends on the type of mall involved. Not all U.S. shopping malls are created equal. They come in 3 basic classes: A Class A mall is one that makes at least $500 per square foot a year. Research from Capital One says their average vacancy rate is just 3.6%,
sales, or
and
is
they're
that
largely doing just
rent?
fine. On the other extreme, Class C malls average less than $300 per square foot per year and have much higher vacancy rates. That leaves Class B malls right in the middle, which is where Namdar likes to be, given their availability and the bigger difference between what they cost and the revenue they can generate, which investors call the cap rate.
What we like to invest in is the B or B plus malls. Those are malls that they do well, but they're one level below the A. And
Yeah, so they
there
don't
we
have
feel
to
that there's
have
an
the
arbitrage.
high-end businesses there. They don't have to have your Gucci or Louis or Fendi Prada. And you could have, just your basic Hot Topic and your... Give me another mall store. Guys, come on.
In the cap rates that you could buy them at much more attractive cap rates than the A, and maybe a little bit less than the C's that we feel don't have much life left in them.
If I own a B mall, is it possible for me to do something to make that into an A mall?
Simply, no. Because the A mall designation is based on the sort of 5-mile radius of income, density, demographic. Okay, I want an income demographic in that 5-mile radius that makes $75,000 to $100,000. Now I can go look for my malls. So the designation of the A or the B is actually based on the wealth. So if you think that an area will in 10 years become more wealthy, then you're going to make that bet, because these leases are also 10 years long.
If a mall owner can't change the demographics of its immediate
Yeah,
surroundings,
San Diego.
what can it do to
Hey,
improve
that's
its
why.
investment? What can be done to save a
I don't
struggling
know
mall?
what that is.
Now our main focus is to do joint venture with a developer and bring someone in and say, let's go as
Ah, a
partner, we can
developer.
repurpose it, whether it's for residential, for hospital, for industrial, hotel, mixed use, other types of retail, big boxes.
That's
junior
thinking outside the
anchors.
box.
So
Hey, you know
that's
what you
we're trying to do,
need
but in some cases,
with that
we
is
just
you kind of actually need to have the proper land use. You need to be able to do mixed use on that property in order for that to happen. You need to be able to have that freedom to do what it is that you want with your property.
Berkshire Mall is close to $130,000, but that's just 7,000 people. Zoom out 5 miles and the average income drops to $73,000 a year across almost 200,000 people.
I believe the highest assessed value was in the mid $50 million range. That coupled with mercantile tax, you were looking at probably anywhere between $400,000 to $700,000 in annual tax revenue. Compare that to the most recent reassessment that dropped it down to $5 million. So you can do the math on 400 to 700,000 lowered to 10%. I mean, that's, if you're talking in terms of our overall budget, current annual operating budget is around $30 million. 400,000 is the amount we spend annually on televising and repairing our water mains, or
Yeah,
that's a
it's-
third of our annual
that
street
is
improvement budget.
Undeniably,
So-
one reason you want more people to go into the trades and you want to subsidize that on a societal level, because you want people that are able to repair existing infrastructure, repair existing homes, and you don't want to be you don't want to require it to cost an arm and a leg. You need it to be an affordable fix because you want these places to be maintained and kept up to a safe standard. This shouldn't be complicated, but I know it is, obviously.
years and years till you get the zoning approved, the entitlements.
Oh, hey,
But that sometimes the issue lies with the local
that's what I
government
talked
and
about.
difficulties in getting timely approval of plans to redevelop.
I think that
See?
if you have a good use that's going to help the city and help the developer, the landlord, maybe we can expedite things where we can make that happen quicker.
Could
I hate to
expedite
see
things.
Certain assets sit empty for years and years till you get the zoning approved, the entitlements. I hope that there's a way that everybody can
There
work
is a
together and
way.
make it expedited,
There's
because the
not an
ultimate
easy
goal
way,
is
but there
to
is a
have
way.
that land repurposed into a new class that is ideal for the community, for the city, for us, for everybody.
The intent was to redevelop it. The borough quickly found out that current ownership, that's not how they operate. They instead buy properties and effectively sit on them. So the redevelopment plan
like
that I think the
an
community
asset.
and borough council expected to see obviously has
commodity.
not happened, much to the
More
dismay of
actually.
most everyone who just kind of sits back and watches it continue to further deteriorate.
However things ultimately work out for the Berkshire Mall, all
That's why
parties recognize the
owning
need to repurpose the property for a
property
changed world of
to
retailing.
just be a
And
commodity
they all see
is kinda
potential
bad.
yet to be realized.
I don't think shopping centers as a whole are a dying breed, and 20 years from now, you're going
I
to see
don't
every
think
single one
either.
of them repurposed.
But
There's
I do
clearly
think that
development
they
going
need a
on.
revitalization.
It just takes a while, but our intent is to work together with the
Because
towns and
not
cities
only do
as
they
much as we can,
need
work together as a
to be redeveloped and repurposed to meet more people's needs, but they also need to have better public transportation in order to get there, especially for if you're building it for hotels or high-rise living, then you actually want that to be able to, you got to be able to get to other places from there too, not just go there from like the suburbs, right?
And the key to a successful second act.
Oh wait, I want to hear more of that.
Of them repurposed.
to work together with the towns and cities as much as we can, work together as a team to redevelop these assets into something that will hopefully be here for the next 100-some years.
Adapting
agree.
to the wants and needs of the current generation and those that come after them will be the key to the long-term
Oh,
health
here we
of the
go.
shopping
Good
mall
lead-in.
and the key to a successful second act.
Good lead in, because you know who goes to malls a lot? It's people that have a lot of time on their hands, and who has more time on their hands than retired people? You know, they actually go to malls just to get exercise in the winter specifically, but also sometimes in the summer because it's also air conditioned. So they're out of the rain or they're out of the heat, and they're in a nice, well conditioned area, and they also don't have to worry about cars in a mall. Building senior housing specifically around malls, on the site where existing parking is, boy, that would be just.
Still ahead, how America is preparing for the silver tsunami.
Now I want to
That's
see how
next
if
on
they
Wall
tie
Street
this in, because they should. It'd be really easy.
This is a story about a tsunami. An
Come on,
overwhelming wall,
Bloomberg, you're
not of
the-
water,
you're the
but of
business.
people, as our population ages
Let's
and
do
needs
this.
places to live that can accommodate their particular needs and desires.
We
What are their
considered
needs and desires?
Probably 4 different residents, and that was before COVID. And then we looked at Murano and loved Murano.
That's Marilyn Bergstrom, an 87-year-old widow who has recently left her house in Seattle, Washington, to take up residence in an upscale senior living development.
My husband, he got lung cancer.
Yeah, they're like
and
upscale.
passed
They're
away
seniors.
in a
They're
year.
they don't want
And
to.
then I stayed in the house for
Like,
another
that's
year.
dilapidated.
And then I decided it was time for me to
Fair.
move on. Well, I had thought years ago I wanted to live in a senior living community before I had to.
Bergstrom is on the leading edge of a coming
Yeah.
explosion in people who will
I
seek
can't blame
senior
her.
living accommodations. The
'Cause
number
there
of
should
Americans
be
over age
assisted
80 is
and
projected to
unassisted
surge over the next
senior
25
living.
years, from 13 million today to over 32 million by 2050. And within the growing population over 75, those with annual incomes over $100,000 are growing much faster than the rest, with the highest percentage of growth coming from those with incomes over $200,000.
Having places
Demographic-
like this, especially if you have places within an easy bus ride to doctor's offices, is, I mean, just imagine how attractive places like that would be for seniors. They have places where they can meet up with other seniors. They have different places to eat if they want to work a part-time job, just to eat, whether it's earn a little extra cash or just participate in, in being around other members of society. There's a lot of like real, to me, obvious wins if you only allow for that kind of growth to happen. But again, you have to have zoning that allows it to be affordable and
Topics are
quick.
definitely in our favor. I got into this
Otherwise, they
business,
lose out.
just over 30 years ago.
And we need
we
homes.
talked about then this silver tsunami that was coming.
Let them abandon their huge single family sprawling suburban home and move into this place that they don't have to take care of. The same square footage is that's a lot to take care of, a lot to have to worry about.
I'm happy to say that I'm actually seeing it happen now. Within the next 5 to 10 years, that aging population is actually going to be moving into senior living.
Tana Gall is one of those addressing the growing demand for high-quality senior living. She's president of Merrill Gardens, which owns and operates retirement communities in 70 locations across the United States, including Murano, which Marilyn Bergstrom now calls home. And what her company provides goes well beyond just a place to live.
We define senior living as a place for people to go enhance their lives once they're past the age of 62.
Man, I hope this is
And they're
loud
ready
enough.
to downsize, or they have some need that really keeps them from living in their own home and makes them want to move into senior
I'll
living.
find
So
out
we
later
provide
on.
help with activities of daily living. We provide meals, housekeeping, maintenance. Probably the most important and maybe overlooked is social interaction. People who live at home
Never.
alone
You
are
can
lonely.
never
And we know that
overlook
socialization
that.
helps you live longer, and certainly not just longer, but happier lives. Tai Chi, yoga.
All those amenities don't come cheap, particularly at the
No, they
high
don't.
end of what Merrill Gardens has to provide. But today there is a growing number of seniors, like Bergstrom, who can afford
Oh,
it.
gosh, water
I'm paying
view.
about $7,500 a month.
This is
That
in
includes
Seattle,
my
remember.
car, which I like to have as long as I can drive. I feel that it's a fair price for what you get. This is far better than any place I expected to live. When I first moved in, I just felt like I was in a fancy hotel every morning that I woke
That's-
up.
And Tana Gall says that as pleasant as it is for
as a
residents like
senior, I
Bergstrom,
feel like that's
it should
kinda
also be
nice.
good business for Merrill Gardens.
I would not say it's a high margin business. It is a middle margin business. Our margins have been a little more compressed of recent since the pandemic.
I feel like a public ownership of some of these homes. Like if you qualify for Social Security, you can live in these homes having a no, what'd she say?
Middle margin business.
Margin. Excuse me. A zero margin business would be phenomenal here. Whether or not that extra money goes into paying for more services, maybe more classes, whatever it is. If there's a margin, it'd be great to be able to do that, to make things even more affordable, because these things are expensive, and perhaps they would either undercut pricing for these style really nice fancy retirement homes, but it also could make them more affordable for the greater amount of people too, and that'd be nice.
Our margins have been a little more compressed of recent since the pandemic. The pandemic was really rough on our sector, for sure. If your question had been to me, Tana, what keeps you up at night? I would have said getting enough great team members. There's a couple things that we're looking at. Number one, we are trying to attract more people into our business that don't even know we exist. So for example, we hire a lot of people from the hospitality business. It's very, very similar to running a hotel. We've also really broadened our scope in reaching out to colleges and
believe that.
universities.
Robust demand that's about to explode. Clientele with the ability to pay high prices. A business with solid margins. All of it should make the world of senior living a truly good real estate investment.
Barbershop
But
in-house.
as NICMAP's Vision CEO Eric Morton says, there's one thing holding it back: supply. His firm tracks senior housing inventory and demand.
Senior housing is really facing a watershed moment as the baby boomers begin to turn
Like I
80.
said,
Senior housing
put them next
construction
to
has been
malls
outpaced
on
by
the
80+
same
growth
property,
since 2022.
and then you integrate it with, you qualify for Social Security, you qualify for this place. Federal government subsidizes their construction, their land ownership. They just run the service part of the business, the maintenance and services, and boom, you can actually adjust and adapt to this pretty quickly, believe it or not.
And that gap is only set to continue as the boomers grow by about 40% by the end of the decade. It's really on the supply side that the issue has manifested. So the pandemic brought
We used to
inflation to construction costs,
build housing
as
in
well
this country.
as a historic increase in interest rates. And the effect of that has been to make the cost of development basically out of reach for most markets. And so what's happened is the senior housing inventory growth has hit all-time lows right as demand
I'm
is
bummed
set
that
to
they
explode.
didn't tie it in
I
together.
have been fortunate
they
enough
totally
to
could
watch our
have. This
industry
would have
go
been
through
genius.
two
I actually
very big
clicked on this
cycles,
because I
as I
thought they
mentioned back
did.
in the mid-90s when assisted living hit Wall Street.
But, oh my
Nobody
gosh.
was public before, but a bunch of companies went public in the mid to late 90s, and they built a lot of assisted living. And then we had the dot-com bust, and things slowed down again. And what
I've
was
heard
good
of
from
that.
that is it took all those buildings that we built and filled them up. And so then the supply-demand was in a nice balance for quite a few years. And then when the recession hit in 08 to 10, the same thing happened. We had a lot of product on the market, and people weren't moving in. So now as we come into a new economic climate, it is probably the lowest I've seen on construction starts, maybe in my 30 years.
because it
in-
takes a lot of money to build these things. More often than not, it takes hundreds of millions of dollars. And if you have inflation, well, inflation's bad also, but if you have interest rates that are as high as they are, without being, the government having specialized interest rates specifically for housing construction or something specific that they want to promote, yeah, it's gonna remain high, and you're not gonna see new jobs being started. You hardly even see them.
In some ways, that's a
being,
little bit distressing to me. But what I'm seeing happen is
proposed.
everybody's filling up. Our occupancies, I'd say, as an industry, are back up to about where they were before the pandemic.
Occupancy rates are back up, but now there's a risk things will go too far, that there will be a substantial shortage in available senior housing.
At the current pace, we're on track for about a $275 billion shortfall in senior housing development. I still think a lot of the challenge is frankly just projects don't pencil. So if you think about what's happened there, you're looking at construction costs that have gone up by 25 or 30%.
Yep.
Debt that used to be 3 or 4 is now 7 or 8.
Yep.
And so when you put those two together, your cost of development has gone up pretty substantially. At the same time, you're looking at what's happened to margins over that time. Well, occupancy's been down and the cost of labor has gone up. But if you dig deep and go down market by market, street corner by street corner, there are areas where occupancy's high, rates are high, and the construction cost, the equation pencils. And so we're really seeing people kind of sharpen their pencils and really go hunting for those areas that can work today. And the number of those areas that work are going to increase as demand explodes.
But if investors are going to be in a position to move in to serve that exploding demand, there have to be enough projects in development now, just waiting for the capital and the go-ahead. Tana
They
Gall
don't
at
even
Merrill
have enough
Gardens says
jobs in
she's ready to
planning,
move as soon
in the
as it makes
planning
sense.
phase.
It really kind of halted our development.
alone
And so, for
approved,
example, I've got 2 pieces of
waiting
land
to be
today that are entitled and ready to go, but I can't financially make them work yet. And from an investor standpoint, there's a lot of people who want to get involved in the sector because they're seeing what's happening down the road. But right now, the cost of capital is just too much for us at this point. We're starting to see it come down.
Not just senior housing
but it's
either,
not quite
folks.
where
You all
we can
know
make
it.
a project work yet. So we're always looking for pieces of land that make sense.
To me, that's the kind of the scary scenario, is that there's markets and segments of the market across the country that have, frankly, no excess capacity. And so the impact that could have on seniors and our entire society is pretty significant. So I think that, at the end of the day, is the thing that I worry the most about.
All of which means those in the industry see an opportunity for
Shame.
investors to get into the
Shame.
senior living game now, in anticipation of
'Cause
that
you want-
silver tsunami.
At a time
You
when the
want
industry
older
needs
people
more
to be able to
capital,
live
more debt
comfortably.
financing,
That's just
to be able to
like-
go out and meet this need, we're seeing market
Nobody should
participants
be
that have
arguing that.
become exhausted or,
Right.
or maybe then beaten during the cycle. And so, really, I think there's a call to action for the nation's banks, for the nation's asset allocators, LPs, pension funds, whoever they might be, to look at this not only as an opportunity to generate an incredible return, but also an opportunity to really help
That's
the
only for people
industry
that are
meet the needs of
retiring with
society. And so
a
I really am
decent
hopeful that that
retirement
will
fund.
happen. But to the extent that we have challenges there, that's something that I'm
We
quite
need
worried
to
about.
have
For all
some
the
of this
challenges
available,
the senior housing
even at a
industry
smaller
faces,
degree,
it also offers substantial
for
rewards, financial
people that
and
don't
otherwise.
have
When I
the same
jumped into
retirement
senior living,
funds.
I didn't think I would be in it for very long, to be honest. I thought, I'll give this a try, see what it's about. Everybody told me, the people are really nice in the industry, and I thought it would be like a 6-month gig, and I literally woke up in August and I've been doing it for 30 years. And here's why
I'm
I
sure
love
it's
it.
because a lot of
It
these
matters.
people are
I
probably
get to make a difference
like
in
really
people's lives every day,
appreciative.
and it's pretty significant. So for
Like,
me, it's like
you're
working with the
making their
team members.
day.
If I treat my team
You're making
members
their
great,
golden
I know they treat
years
my residents
golden,
great, and simultaneously, it's a business. We make money doing it. So that's why I love it. That's why I think it's an industry that's going to be around a long, long time.
And that, of course, is a good thing for Marilyn
All right,
Bergstrom
all right.
at Murano.
I like everything
you,
just to stay
Bloomberg.
as is. I mean, everything right now is just absolutely perfect.
That's a
Kids,
huge room,
grandkids
by
coming
the
for
way.
dinner and
Oh my gosh! is
spending
that
time
their
here.
house, or
It's
is
a
that
place
like
that people like to come to.
a room
In
that
fact,
they get
even
to
without being
rent
invited,
out
they
at
just
this
will call up and
place?
say, "Oh, can I come over?" And that's a really good feeling. It's like being in your own home.
Like, it is objectively cool that like they have these things available for them, and I love it, and I think everybody should be for a comfortable retirement in a housing, nice quality services, and let's just make it happen, right? Let's do whatever we can, even if if it's as little as all we have to do is make it easy to zone, so that way places can make these quicker and more affordably. Great, let's just do that then. If there's something else we have to do, let's adapt, because that's everybody's future, ideally, is to be able to retire, and to be able to retire happily and comfortably. Call me crazy, I don't know. Anyway, I gotta run, but thank you for watching. Come back again sometime. I'm GNSV. This is Our Built Environment. Please like and subscribe. Have a great day. Thanks for watching.